It got me the first time I came down here. I didn't even realize they did this. You got to remove a real one from the cave yesterday. Oh, really? Yeah. You guys could. You can sort of hang out on that bottom step. Sweet. So, this is our entrance room. We're going to hang out in here for a moment. We're going to let our eyes adjust to the change in brightness. My first question for you guys, do you like how it smells in here?
Not really.
Yes.
Not really, right? If you look around, you're going to see all these dark spots covering the walls and ceiling. If you guys had to guess, what do you think that stuff is?
No.
There we go. Great guesses, right? But yeah, this is all going to be bat pee and bat poop pretty much covering every surface in
Wow.
here. Yeah, interestingly enough, also known as guano, bat poop was used as an ingredient in things like explosives, fertilizers. Up until 2011, it was one of the main ingredients in women's mascara,
Ew.
which I just find very interesting, right? Talk about batting your eyelashes if you get what I mean. But speaking of bats, though, if you get lucky and see some today, we'll likely see these guys. They're called cave myotis. Their bodies are super small. They're about as big as your thumb. They kind of look like little flying chicken nuggets as we're flying through the cave. That's what we like to call them. Have any of you guys ever heard of an animal called a coatimundi or a coati before?
Yeah.
They're pretty cool. It's almost like a raccoon, badger, lemur mix, if you can imagine that. Every once in a while, we'll see these guys in the cave, so keep an eye out. Usually, they're down by our campgrounds, breaking into our trash cans, all that fun stuff. You guys might think I'm lying about this next part, but I've actually personally seen them break into our margarita machine on multiple occasions.
Wow.
As well, so, yeah, they know how to have fun down here for sure. If you guys look up towards the ceiling, one last thing before we start heading further in, you'll notice a lot of difference in coloring over here. This, however, is all going to be smoke staining left behind by our first ever visitors to the cave. They were known as the Hohokam Native American people, and it's estimated they came through here back around 900 AD. Mostly just using this entrance room for storage and migration purposes, not necessarily living in here for long periods of time. With that being said, we're going to head down this way. Just watch your guys' heads. A lot of low-hanging formations up ahead. You guys from the area?
Oh, yeah, we live in
You ever been out here before? No. Where did you guys from before?
Boston.
Wow. How'd you guys meet? Okay, yeah. You're another one. Do you like Germany?
Yeah, I love
Were you in the military?
it. Yeah.
I always hear that's like the place you got to go. You're stationed somewhere. My fiance's mom, she's from this place called Colossal. Yeah, somewhere it's a smaller town, but I don't know, I just really like the architecture.
Yeah.
No air conditioning though. Well then you can sort of hang out down there, that should be some room for us. What about you guys? Are you guys from the area?
No, we're from Miami.
Miami?
Yeah.
Nice. You guys drive here?
No.
I'm still waiting for the group that does.
No.
That's crazy.
How was it back home with the storm that went through? Did it hit Miami?
It is central Miami.
So yeah, I have some friends or some family who live in Tampa, like sort of outside of Tampa, and supposedly it like just missed them. So
Yeah,
luckily.
because it hit south a little bit.
There we
Like
go.
Orlando, kind of.
What about you, sir? Are you from the
Seattle.
Seattle? Nice. Imagine big change of scenery for you. I know we got some folks from LA back there. Are you guys from the
I'm
area?
from Phoenix. She's from Michigan.
Michigan.
Yeah.
Nice. Are you a Detroit Lions fan?
Oh, of course.
Yes.
That's bad news. I'm a big Vikings fan. So
Oh.
if anyone gets lost down here, it's gonna be the Michigan lady. Awesome. No, this is a pretty cool room. It's called the Crystal Forest. Gets its name based off these guys hanging down from the ceiling. These guys popping up from the ground. The ones hanging down from the ceiling, do any of you know what these are called? There we go. Yeah, exactly. These guys are stalactites. They hang tight to the ceiling, right? Stalagmites popping up from the ground. We say they might trip you if you aren't looking out for them, right? Most important thing to know about these guys, they're all formed from a mineral called calcium carbonate. Back at your houses, if you don't clean off your sinks every once in a while, they get all that white buildup and residue.
Yeah.
Same mineral, right? So let's just say you let that grow in your bathroom for like 4,000 years. You have a pretty cool formation. Yeah.
Wow.
You guys will also notice a lot of these guys have flat ends. That's not natural. That's going to be vandalism. Happened way back in the late 1800s. There was a guy named Solomon Lick. Really cool 1800s name, I guess. He owned a hotel in the area, and he found this cave one day.
Wow.
Didn't own the land that the cave was on, but regardless, he would take people through here as a way of promoting his hotel. He'd tell everybody to take home whatever souvenirs they want as they came through here, right? So for about 30 years straight, if they couldn't reach them to pull them down, they'd bring in lassos, pull them down that way, as well as even rifles in certain instances, and they would shoot them down, which isn't the smartest thing to do in a cave, right? Just in general, it takes these guys around 100 years just to grow an inch. So I'm sure you guys can imagine just how long these guys have been forming. Also, no water flowing through this cave, right? So no active growth is happening right now. Most of the vandalism is going to stay just like it is. For perspective, last time there would have been water in this cave would have been about 13,000 years ago. So quite a long time.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, real quick, this guy, we call him Fang. He's the largest stalactite in the whole cave system. Can any of you guys guess how much he weighs? If you guess it right, you get to take it home with you.
Okay.
3 tons.
You guys are all super close. Yeah, about 2 tons. This guy weighs around 4,000 pounds. He's roughly the size of a pickup truck hanging over your head as you walk by, right? We call him Fang because he sort of looks like a molar and a fang. Also because if you're over 5'7" and you aren't looking out for him, he's going to bite you on the top of your head. So just be careful. He makes a really cool sound when people do run into him. In fact, take a listen.
Wow. It's like a pipe organ.
Pretty cool, right? So if I hear this, I know he got one of you guys. Okay? You guys in the back, take as much time as you need. There's some really cool spots to grab some pictures down here. When you guys are ready, I'll be around the corner. Just watch you guys' heads. It's a little lower down this way. Yeah. What do you guys do back in my hand?
Turn around.
You getting some good captures?
Hopefully.
Oh yeah, I hope so too.
You have to be careful with it.
If you happen to get me in any of your pictures, just blur me out. I have a lot of warrants out right now.
Oh, okay. What makes these stalactites so heavy?
What was that?
Why are they so heavy? They
Yes.
don't look like it's so, it's so heavy.
Yeah, they're going to be completely solid all the way through. I know based off the sound, they sort of sound hollow. They're pretty much comprised of all calcite crystal. The reason they make the noise is reverberate sound, right? So similar if you've seen those crystal bowls that I was going to rub this with, just reverberate sound. So yeah, really good. You're having too much fun. You gotta bring it down. Okay. There we go. Sweet. So this is the largest room we're going to be in today. It's called the drapery room. It's named after this formation up here. So those stalactites again, they're just calcium dense water dripping in the same spot for years and years and years. Over here, that water would have washed over the whole formation, solidified into these super narrow sheets, which by the way are actually known as cave bacon. Believe it or not. Kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, right underneath it, we got a super rare mineral. Only 2 caves in Arizona have this mineral. We call this fiberglass. Pretty cool stuff. And over here, let's say you got a stalactite and you got a stalagmite. That stalagmite in the middle forms a column. This is a process that can sometimes take upwards of 100,000 years to complete. So when you guys see the vandalism next to it, or somebody just came through and sheared that off, really unfortunate to see, right? But enough of the depressing history of the cave. Wanted to tell you guys about the guy who really tried to save this place back in the day. His name was Frank Schmidt. He was originally from Germany, moves out here to Arizona around the year 1920, and he buys the mining rights to this place after seeing everyone destroying it. First thing he does with this new cave, makes it to where no one can come into it without a tour guide. Back then, he was the only guy working here, and for 25 cents back in the day, you could come down here with him. He would give you guys a candle and a rope, and you'd pretty much just explore this place with him. Never any time limits. Let's say you're down here for 8 hours with Frank. Finally, you go up to him, you're like, hey man, we've been stuck down here forever. Is it okay if we leave? He'd sort of just look at you guys and say, I'm going to keep exploring. Just go back the way you came. I hope you don't get lost. And that's just sort of how it worked back then. He worked here up until the age of 84 years old. He passed away 1 year after that at the age of 85 in 1955. So we all love Frank here. Without him, this cave wouldn't look anything like the way it does right now, including our floors. In case you guys were wondering, these aren't natural floors we're walking on. In fact, back when these tours first started, right where we're standing, there would have roughly been about a 30-foot drop underneath us. So all this stuff, all the staircases, railings, walkways, all this stuff was done by a group called the CCC in the mid-1930s. I wanted to see, could any of you guys take a wild guess at what CCC might stand for?
Conservation.
You're actually really close. Civilian Conservation Corps. You guys may have seen like the big, hunky, muscular statue right outside of the cave. Kind of looks like your tour guide. That's the group that we're talking about. Basically, after the Great Depression, this group of young men were sent all over the country fixing up national parks, things of that nature. At one point, there was upwards of 600 workers at a time working in here. They were in here from like 1934 through 1938 building everything we're going to walk on. And they'd all make about 25 cents a day. Most of that money would go back to their families back home. Now, real quick, let's talk about getting lost in the cave. If you guys ever get lost in here, at some point you'll find yourself in this room because there's 5 different entryways. Over here, there's a few formations you can use to find your own way out of the cave. I wanted to share those with you guys. The first one, we call her our cave witch. If you guys look really carefully, you'll see she's got her nice long flowing hair on the side of her head. She's got her eye with her wart underneath it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's got her long nose, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just remember the nose is pointing you guys out of the cave. One single tooth tends to happen when you just eat limestone cookies all day, right?
Oh.
And then, of course, you know, she's a witch. She got super lonely down here. She conjured up her friend Shadow the cat to keep her company while she's hanging out downstairs.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. We've also got a few celebrities in here. We've got SpongeBob and Patrick over here in the corner. Just kind of watching us. I had this little guy come up to me a few days ago. He says, if you guys look right in the middle, you can even see Plankton standing there with them too. Well, I have to point that out from now on. Have you guys ever heard of a man named Mr. Magoo before?
Yes.
Yeah, so he's a blind old man from the comics, giant glasses because he can't see. Our Mr. Magoo doesn't wear his glasses, therefore, don't follow his blind little eye, his nose, his lips, his cup of tea. He's actually going to be pointing you guys in the exact wrong direction, which is further into the cave, and actually where we're heading next. Before we move on, though, do you guys have any questions for me? Awesome, cool.
Who named this outer was named as a Colossal Cave?
Why did they name it Colossal Cave?
And who did that? Yeah.
There we go. So it was going to be called the Colossal Cave a little bit after Frank took over. There's about 3.5 miles worth of cave in here, which makes it the largest dry cave in Arizona. So that's where the name is going to come from. Before that, it was actually called Mountain Park. Sweet. Down this way, you guys will see what looks like an old clock. It's actually an old weather station. Don't know if you guys have been in a lot of caves. If you have, you would notice this one's a lot warmer. This one always stays at a year-round 71-degree temperature. Sounds nice during the summers when we're getting a bunch of rain. Humidity can go from like 30% all the way up to around 90%. So yeah, it can feel pretty terrible depending on the time of year. You guys know what I'm talking about, though, right?
It's okay, we prefer than the dry heat.
I've never quite understood that. I don't know. Every time I go to Florida, I like step outside and all of a sudden I'm just like so.
No, it's nasty over here, you know.
Yeah.
You're like smoking your car, you're taking a smoking piece with a small air coming in the car.
I guess that's fair, especially if you aren't driving right. Yeah, probably one of them over there. Sweet guys, so I like pointing out this tunnel. Pretty sweet. This is called the solution tunnel. Back when the cave was forming, you got a bunch of water coming down through the limestone. It would meet up with things like carbonic and sulfuric acid and all that stuff. Sort of if you kind of imagine a big giant soda tunnel back in the day, it all eats away at all this rock like a big block of Swiss cheese. So what that means is other than the floors and the lights that were added, none of this tunnel was ever mined or expanded through to create this passageway, which I think is pretty extraordinary. Down this way on your right side, you'll see this big hole in the wall that drops down. That's our bottomless pit. We had a lady come through a few weeks ago with a brand new iPhone. She leaned over to take a picture, somehow dropped her phone straight to the bottom.
Oh.
Where do you guys think the phone is right now?
In the water. In the pocket or?
Still at the bottom. So just don't drop anything down there. Okay, you probably won't see it.
Is it still there?
If you want, we could hold you down by your ankles, maybe, and maybe you could grab the phone down there.
How many seconds did it take before you
What was that?